Day 26, 4 sessions after this one, and then it's the revision. Hi, I'm Dr. Rivka Edery, and welcome back to these explainer videos on Spatial Psy. And I'm so excited to talk about the blind spot. That might come across as a bit odd, and here is why I'm so excited to talk about it, because it's the trap that when you're aware of, reduces its chances of trapping you. Let me explain this further. Yesterday, I had you do something necessary, and it has put you in the most dangerous epistemic position of this entire course. I want to name that before you sit down tonight. You wrote your tests, a number and a date. If fewer than 3 of my next 5 sessions show a lower right void, this is dead. Which means that tonight and tomorrow and the night after, you're going to sit down at that table knowing exactly what you need to see. Go back to the definition of noise, which I gave you on day 15 and which has been sitting in the book since page 1. Noise is any impression that appears after effort, fear, desire, urgency, or a need to be right. A need to be right. Yesterday, I gave you one. I gave it to you deliberately because a test you have not declared is not a test, but I'm not going to pretend the declaration is free. You now have a stake in a specific outcome on a specific part of the table, and you have 4 sessions in which to produce it. And there is a second consequence. It is subtler and worse, and it is what today is actually about. When you look hard at one part of the table, everything else on it goes dark. Here is the line from the book Spatial Psy, and I've saved it for tonight because tonight is when it becomes operational. Every reader has a blind spot. It is not the card they misread. It is the 3 inches of empty table they never looked at. Look at what that sentence rules out. You assume your blind spot is a failure of knowledge, the card whose symbolism you do not fully grasp, the configuration you name wrongly, the pattern you have not yet learned to see. Those are errors, certainly, but they are not blind spots because they are detectable. You can be corrected on them. You can look up the card. You can go back and reread day 17 and discover that you've been reading isolates wrong. An error you can find is not a blind spot. It is just a mistake. The real blind spot is the 3 inches of empty table you never looked at. And notice why that is a completely different kind of thing. It's not a failure of knowledge. It's a failure of attention. And attention has no error message. When you misread a card, something in you eventually flags it. When you fail to look at a region of the table, nothing flags it because the flagging mechanism would have to be attention, and attention is precisely what did not go there. You cannot notice what you did not notice. There is no internal signal. The 3 inches are not experienced as missing. They are simply not experienced. That is why this is the last real hazard I have to teach you, and why it is one that will still be with you in 10 years. Now, let me connect this to what you did last night, because 2 things are the same thing. A declare test is a spotlight, and a spotlight makes a room dark. You're watching the lower right because that is where your test lives. If fewer than 3 of my next 5 sessions show a lower right void, this is dead. So tonight, you will see the lower right with tremendous precision. You will notice whether it's empty. You will measure it. You will care about it. And you will not see the other 3/4 of the table at all. Not less well, at all. Because your attention has a budget. And you have just spent most of it on a single region in advance before a card was placed. The test you declared last night has manufactured a blind spot tonight. It is operating right now, and it will operate every night for the rest of the practicum. And here is the thing that makes it genuinely difficult. I cannot tell you to stop declaring tests. The test is the whole point. An undeclared pattern is untestable, and an untestable pattern is a preference, and we settled that on day 11. So this is not a mistake you can avoid by being careful. It is a structural cost of doing the thing you must do, which means the answer is not vigilance. Vigilance is attention, and attention is the resource that has already been spent. The answer, as always in this method, is procedure. So what does not work? Resolving to look at the whole table. I will be thorough. I will remember to check the other regions. I will hold my test lightly. You will not. And the reason is not weakness of character. It is that the commitment of your attention is invisible to you. You do not experience yourself neglecting the upper left. You experience yourself looking at the table. You cannot pay attention to what you're not paying attention to. That sentence sounds like a paradox, and it is simply a description. So what works? The same thing that has always worked in this method. Take the decision away from yourself and give it to a procedure. Describe the table before you consult your test, and sweep it in a fixed order, mechanically, exhaustively, whether or not anything seems to be there. Force the eye through the dark regions, not because you expect to find something, precisely because you do not. That is the whole intervention, and it is unglamorous, and it will feel like a waste of time on most nights. It is the same argument as the void from day 9. Your eye does not go to absence, so you must go deliberately. And it is the same argument as the sequence from day 14. You do not read the interesting card first because the interesting card will eat the reading. Tonight, generalized. You do not look where you are interested. You look everywhere in a fixed order. And then you look where you are interested. Interest is the enemy of coverage. And you have never been more interested than you are tonight. Here is the sweep. It takes about 90 seconds, and you will run it every session for the rest of the practicum. And if you keep this practice for the rest of your life. 1. Name every region out loud or on the page. Upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right, center, and the edges. Say each one. Do not let your eye choose the order. The order is fixed, and it does not care what is interesting tonight. 2. For each region, occupied or empty, one word. No interpretation, no meaning, no significance. You are taking an inventory, not reading. This is deliberately boring, and the boringness is load-bearing. An inventory that is interesting has already become a reading. 3. And this is a step that will actually change what you see. Note the regions you almost skipped. There will be one. Every session, there is one region your eye tries to slide past, usually because nothing is there, and nothing is where the eye refuses to go. That region is the important entry, so mark it. Over 4 sessions, watch whether it is the same region every time. Because if it is, if your eye reliably skips the same 3 inches of table night after night, then you have found your blind spot. Not theorized about it, located it empirically in a specific place by watching yourself fail to look at it. That is a finding about you, and no one else can give it to you, and you could not have obtained it before tonight because you did not have a procedure that would catch it. 4. And only now, after the sweep is complete and written down, consult your test. Look at the lower right, score it. By then, your attention has already done its rounds. The spotlight comes on last after the room has been lit. Now, the harder half. And I want you to sit with it rather than move past it. Noise is any impression that appears after effort, fear, desire, urgency, or a need to be right. You have a test running. You want it to survive. Of course you do. It is a pattern you noticed, and you have been quietly proud of it for 2 weeks. And if it dies, you'll have to write down that it died. So every impression that arrives in the lower right over the next 4 nights is now, by Spatial Site Book's own definition, under suspicion. Not false, under suspicion. Those are different, and I want you to hold a distinction precisely, because the sloppy version of this thought would have you distrust everything and record nothing. The void in the lower right may be perfectly real tonight. It may be exactly what it appears to be, but it arrived while you were wanting it, and that fact is now part of the evidential situation, and it must go on the record. So here's what you do, and it costs you 1 line. When you score your test tonight, note the condition under which the observation was made. Lower right void present, observed under declared test conditions. I was looking for it. That's not a hedge. It is a fact about the measurement, and it is the same fact you have been recording since day 3 when you wrote whether an entry was made before or after the flip. Blind observation carries more weight than sighted observation. You know this. Now, apply it to yourself. An observation made while hunting for a specific outcome is a sighted observation, and it must be labeled as one. Your day 30 self will need to know which of your findings were made blind and which were made while looking.